All right, peace, peace, peace. Welcome to another episode of the Mixed Metals Podcast. I'm not sure which episode this is. Forgive me if I sound a little under the weather. You know, we just one of the things we got to go through. Uh, so I was going to continue my series of the albums and how they relate to each other. The three album series between 444 by Jay-Z, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, and Michael by Killer Mike. But I'm gonna put that on pause. I'm gonna shift that to next week. The fight from last night kind of inspired me to take a different direction. So this week my focus topic is going to be on how sports translate to life, to everyday life. And I'm gonna just give a few examples. It's gonna be more of a stream of consciousness, uh, as far as I'm concerned. Just me thinking of sports moments and the trials and the triumphs and people coming back from certain things and how that those things can translate to life. And I'll try to make it, or I mean that'll be the only way I know how. I'll just make it relate to me, as best I see fit. And maybe you can find stories that you relate to. Uh, but first, first and foremost, let's let me make sure that I mention rest in peace to the victims of the shootings in Maine. Um, we need to do better as human beings. And prayers for those victims' families, the people that have to live, they have to continue to live without their loved ones for senseless reasons. Uh, I read that one of the victims, he and his wife had known each other since preschool, and that's devastating. It's devastating regardless to lose someone, unexpectedly, but someone that you have known your whole life, and now that person is gone, someone that has known you for your whole life, someone that knows all of your habits, all of your like your favorites, all of your dislikes, and you traveled together, like, time in and time out. I cannot imagine having had someone that I grew up with be taken away just like that. Life is precious. We should definitely, take note of that. I thank God for every day that I'm alive, that I'm awake and alert, and have full use of my all of my limbs and everything, and I'm of my right mind. I'm thankful. Um, and we just gotta we need to be better to each other. We need to be better to ourselves. We need to take care of ourselves, because you're not gonna be able to take care of anybody else if you're not taken care of first. So let's just make sure that I just wanted to make sure that I got that out the way. But before I start my show, um, so Francis Ngannou last night fought world heavyweight champion, undisputed, undefeated, one draw, um, Tyson Fury. As a boxer, Tyson Fury is perhaps my favorite heavyweight boxer. Deontay Wilder, I would say, is my favorite heavyweight fighter. As far as boxing goes, I think that they're not even necessarily levels, but styles make fights, and I think that you could look at Tyson Fury and you could clearly tell that he's, like, or I can't even say clearly tell, but you could look at him and from your perception of him would probably be that he's just, that he's just out of shape. He's doughy, and not let alone boxing, but athletics should be probably the least of his concern that you would probably imagine. But he is a very, very technically sound boxer. Um, it could be destiny that he was named after Mike Tyson. And there's just so many things that go back and forth between Mike Tyson and Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou. There's so many, interwoven storylines between those three that is just amazing. So I mentioned that to say that Tyson Fury is a bad man, just period. He knocked out Deontay Wilder. He had been knocked down by Deontay Wilder 4 times, I believe, in their 3 fights. Uh, Deontay Wilder had been known. I think at the time of their first fight, they were both undefeated, and Deontay Wilder had something insane. Like I don't know the exact record offhand, but let's just say it was maybe 38-0 with about 37 knockouts. Um, so and he's a tall guy, he's a big guy. They match pretty well on paper, as far as their attributes, their physical attributes. Um, but Tyson Fury got the better of him in two, arguably three of those 3 fights. Francis Ngannou, on the other hand, um, has a background in mixed martial arts. If you know the story of Francis Ngannou, you know that he was homeless. He was, living on the streets, and he he's from Cameroon. He had only heard about Mike Tyson. He had never seen him or anything like that, but he knew that that's who he wanted to be like as far as combat sports. And he has the hardest recorded punch in combat sports at the moment. I'm not sure if that's in history. I think it is, but I'm not sure if that is in history. But I know that at the moment, Francis Ngannou has the hardest measured punch. I'm not sure how they measure it, but uh, he's also a bad man. And his knockouts in UFC were, nothing to sneeze at. They were some of the most amazing knockouts that you'll ever see. He is a, I mean, he is a, uh, and like as far as his build, I mean, I don't know anybody with as great of a build as Francis Ngannou in combat sports. And it's hard to believe that he is 37. That's how old he is. It's hard to believe that Tyson Fury is 35. Um, I believe that Tyson Fury went into this fight not necessarily taking it serious. I believe that he went into it looking ahead. And I mean, we could stop right there. Honestly, we take a brief pause because looking ahead can get you, if you're looking ahead in anything in life, um, what's right in front of you could knock you out, could knock you down, could knock you out, could kill you. You know what I mean? So I believe that Tyson Fury was, he had maybe got a little ahead of himself. As I said, he is undefeated, and undisputed, and I mean he deserves all the accolades that come with him. And it had basically gotten to a point where it seemed that he was probably invincible. That nobody could touch him, nobody, especially a guy coming from MMA. These crossover fights that we see, what's interesting, I was saying it to my wife yesterday as we were watching the fight, that the crossover events always take place with MMA fighters coming over to boxing. To my knowledge, I haven't seen anything the other way around. I haven't seen a Floyd Mayweather go into the octagon, or I mean, anyway, anybody, Max Holloway. I haven't seen anybody, take on Max Holloway in the octagon. Anybody from the sport of boxing. So I think that that's already interesting. But I also think that the boxers take these fights because, for one, their fights do go longer, typically speaking. If a fight goes the distance in UFC, it's no more than 5 minute rounds. Um, but if it goes the distance in boxing, is uh up to 12 3 minute rounds. So there's a difference there, with a 1 minute rest in between. Um, Boxing, you can only use your hands. You can aim at the body, and do all of those things, but your lower limbs are really just for movement in the sport of boxing. So I mean, there are advantages, definitely advantages to pulling an MMA fighter from MMA to into boxing. So I think that Tyson Fury did not take this fight seriously. I think that he was looking past Francis Ngannou, and he probably took into account the fact that this was Francis Ngannou's debut professional fight, and there were no belts on the line. And the worst that could happen was I believe that going into this fight, Tyson Fury probably thought that the worst that could happen was I may get knocked down. I may get knocked down. There's a slim chance that I get knocked down. I know that he punches hard and he has a puncher's chance. That's what they say in heavyweight boxing, a puncher's chance, because everybody in heavyweight boxing, it only takes one punch. You know what I mean? It doesn't take necessarily. It doesn't always take a combination setup or anything like that. It only usually takes just one punch in order to to change the trajectory of a fight. So Tyson Fury was the heavy favorite. He came in really, really confident. But so did Francis Ngannou. And I can't say that I hate to make it a race thing, but I root for anybody that's black in sports. If there is only one a black side, chances are I'm rooting for that side. That's just who I am. That's just how I was raised. That's just that I don't apologize for it. Um, so I was with Tyson Fury being my favorite boxer, I was still going in hoping that Francis Ngannou. I didn't want him to get embarrassed. I didn't want him to get hurt. Well, you run the risk of getting hurt regardless. Whether had he gone into an MMA fight with Tyson Fury or had it been a boxing match, you run the risk of getting hurt regardless. So I can't necessarily say that, but I didn't want him to lose. I know that much. I did not want Francis Ngannou to lose, and I felt like if Tyson Fury were to lose, it wouldn't have as many repercussions as as had he lost to Deontay Wilder or Anthony Joshua or anybody like that. So it appeared like watching the pre-fight interviews and the little segments that they were running, the promos that they were running, I saw something in Francis's eyes that that showed that he was definitely taking it serious. He wasn't like this wasn't a cash grab for him. He wanted to go over to Saudi Arabia and win a fight, win his professional boxing debut. And it showed throughout the whole entire fight. There were times where he did look tired, but in my opinion, Francis Ngannou won that fight. And that's the topic at hand here is the fact that um Francis Ngannou was doubted by everyone. And they kept mentioning the live props during the fight that they kept shrinking. Tyson Fury was the overwhelming favorite to not only win but to knock Francis Ngannou out. And then lo and behold, Francis Ngannou gets a knockdown. This is only the seventh time that Tyson Fury had been knocked down in his whole career, and that's counting four times with Deontay Wilder. So we're looking at five between two people, and two between the 30 other people or however many of the other people there were. And Francis Ngannou comes in with his first boxing match and knocks down the champ. Um, and I think that changed Tyson Fury's mind, but I believe that it was too late. I think that he wasn't prepared for that, obviously, and I don't think he was prepared for what could come with that, and I think that showed throughout the rest of the fight. I truly, truly believe that Francis Ngannou got robbed, and so I will proceed as if Francis Ngannou won that fight, and to me, the story there is the fact that this man who is an older fighter. I think he's older than a Terrence Crawford or a Errol Spence, and maybe around the same age as Canelo. And this is he's at a point where fighters typically would be slowing down, and here he is making his debut. And I just think that that's incredible. And not only did he make his debut, he proved everybody wrong, including me, because I didn't think he would knock him down. Let alone I didn't think it would be as close as it was. Tyson Fury won in a controversial split decision. Split decisions are usually controversial, I guess you could say. But I mean, this one, I'm not sure what the judges saw that I didn't see. I'm not a professional, judge or anything like that. To be honest, look, I don't believe that I look for the same thing that judges look for. I just, I do think that optics matter, and I think that I I don't think that there's any way that you can say that Tyson Fury won that fight. I don't see, and I will have to go look again. I will watch the fight again, and just to make sure that I wasn't, just too off, that I wasn't tripping or something like that. But I just I believe I saw a man get robbed on pay-per-view, in my opinion. You know what I mean? And a lot of people saw it. There were a lot of there were a lot of athletes and sports personalities um, all over the internet, complaining or giving their opinion on who they think won. And a lot of people thought that Francis won as well. Um, so yeah, just that adversity that he had to deal with, as if, I mean, he had been dealing with adversity throughout his whole entire life. And I just believe that that's just a beautiful, beautiful story as to how he won that fight. We can proceed, and this podcast will proceed as if Francis ain't gonna won that fight. So for him to be doubted and doubted and doubted and looked over and not really given a chance, for him to have won that fight is just truly something special. Um, and it got me to thinking about other stories in sports and how they can translate to life. Um, I was So younger, when I was younger, growing up, I was a fan of the Lakers, but that was because of Shaq. I'm always the silly guy, and I've always liked being around the silly guy. Um, and Shaq was that in every way possible. And he showed his personality on and off the court, and although I was very young, I identified with that. I just liked him for who he was, and I thought that he was an excellent player. Shaq is in my top five all time, my personal top five all time. I don't think that there would I don't we would never see another Shaq. We may see versions, or we may see people with certain characteristics of Shaq, but we will never see that combination of a human being ever again. Um, so when Shaq left, uh, basically as a fan, so did I. I was not too much of a fan of Kobe. Um, I'm not really sure why, but he just wasn't my guy. And then when LeBron got in the league, it was a wrap from there pretty much. It was Carmelo and LeBron were my favorite two players. And so I grew up being a LeBron guy, and of course, when it comes to athletes, especially black athletes, they got to pit you against each other. So it was either you were a Kobe fan or you were a LeBron fan. There was no in between. Um, so growing up with that ignorance, I was strictly LeBron, and Kobe could do nothing right, LeBron could do no wrong. But as I started to mature and grow older, I realized I grew a certain level of respect for Kobe that I probably would not have otherwise. Had I not just been open minded. Um, and Kobe attacked. basketball the way that people should go about life, in my opinion. And he related it to life in every aspect. When people were asking questions about, where was your head at in this game, and where was your head at in that game, and what was going through your mind here and all of that. I wanted to go out and dominate. And if you go out and dominate your day, I feel like that whether or not you win or lose, you knowing that you gave it all you had should be more than fulfilling. So I grew to respect Kobe, and his sports moment that resonated with me, and still gives me chills when I see the commercial, especially after his untimely passing. Safe travels to Kobe Bryant. When he tore his Achilles, the moment on the court, you could, well, I don't know if you could tell that he knew, but you knew that he knew that something bad happened. And the NBA rules, if you don't shoot those free throws, then you can't participate in the rest of the game. Now, Kobe is in excruciating pain at this point, and he's probably not gonna make it back to the game whether he shoots these free throws or not. But he toughed it out. He walked himself to the free throw line, shot the two free throws, tears in his eyes, and walked back to the locker room. Um, Again, when with the post game interviews and things like that, tears in his eyes. Gave his interview as he would have given any other interview had he not been injured. He didn't say for sure, what was going on, but he knew, he was aware at that point, and you know, him just fighting through that pain just in that brief moment was just such a powerful moment. And I feel like that moment represented Kobe's career, because he had been able to come back from anything. There was, I mean, of course he's got the 81-point game, and there's so many Kobe moments that we could go back to. Um and I just feel like that was a pivotal moment in his career. And whenever you look back, his story isn't told without that moment. His story cannot be told without that moment. There will be people who are telling all the positive, all the great things that happened in Kobe's career, all the times that he wasn't injured, but that injury specifically, him walking to the free throw line, sinking those two free throws, and walking back to the locker room will never be forgotten. Next, I want to perhaps talk about LeBron Game 6, Eastern Conference Finals 2012. Um, uh, so this was the season after LeBron had joined the Miami Heat in free agency, along with Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade. Um, this was the season after the infamous not two, not three, not four, not five, not six. How many championships we think we can win. This was the season after the decision, ultimately. Um, this was a time in LeBron's career where it was basically the turning point. He had made it to the finals prior in his career, but he got swept. Um, and this was the moment where, okay, he's got all this help now. Um, let's see, let's see if LeBron is really, if he lives up to the hype, or if because he had the ultimate meltdown in the finals before. And so this was a moment. If they would have gotten put out of this conference finals 4-2, who knows what could have happened after that. Do they blow the team up after that? Do they see that it doesn't work? Do they Do they see that they're regressing instead of progressing? They get to the finals one season, they get up 2-0, they lose 4-2, um, and then they don't even make it to the finals the following season. So are we going backwards or what? But LeBron James and that in that decisive game six. Let me just run you through the stats. Um, that it is infamous because of the look that he had in his eyes. It was all business that game. I remember watching that game, and I mean, just talking about it now, it's just like it's surreal. So LeBron ended that game. He played 45 minutes, went 19 of 26, uh, 2 of 4 from the three, 15 rebounds, 5 assists, no steals, no blocks, 45 points. And basically won that game, willed his team to win a game six that, I mean, this is up to this point the biggest moment of LeBron James's career. And he delivered. He over delivered. The next leading scorer on the team was Dwayne Wade with 17 points, 6 of 17 shooting. So it had to be LeBron, and just how that relates to life is just, for me personally, my current job that I'm at now, um, I've been there for about 4 years, almost 4 years. I've never called out. Never called out. Anytime I've missed work, it has been planned prior. It has been I've taken my days off and things of that nature. But and I've been with 3 different companies within this job, or 4 different companies within this job. Never called out. Not one of those people could, not one of my bosses could say that I've called out. Not one. And there's something special to me specifically that about being able to be counted on. Um, so it's 2 things in this story that I can relate to. I like when my back is against the wall. I love being doubted. You know, I love pressure being placed upon me, where I can, adapt and overcome. And I like being able to be counted on. So uh, there was a tremendous amount of pressure because this was an elimination game for LeBron and the Heat. If they lose this game, they lose the finals. They go 0 for 2, and with since joining the stacked Miami Heat team, and people are wondering, the big three and these kind of things. That they were calling LeBron all kind of names, the Frozen One, and you know, they had the jokes. How many times does his phone ring, or does he answer his phone because it doesn't ring, and blah blah blah. But I mean, this moment changed not only LeBron's career, but I believe that it changed the NBA because now, instead of the Heat, blowing their team up, that realizing that their experiment didn't work, they go on to win that finals, and they win another one back to back, and that Celtics team breaks up after that. Ray Allen ends up on the Heat. Um, so I think that it changed the trajectory, and we don't necessarily see a big three come together until well, yeah, we don't see that happen in free agency for a long time until Kevin Durant joined the Warriors, and we could say a big four there, but as far as like offensive prowess, we would say that the big three there was Steph, Clay, and KD. Um, so I think that moment, that was, in the grand scheme of things, that was a bigger moment than just that game. That was a bigger moment than just LeBron's career. I think that was among the bigger moments in NBA history. That's one of those things that we'll point back to as well, and look at as a decisive moment in NBA history. Um, this will probably be my last one that I speak of. And ironically, it's just like teams and people that I love. But I want to talk about the national championship between Alabama and Georgia. What year was this? 20. My apologies. 2018. So, and I mean, this is the same old story. Uh, Alabama and Georgia, those games always get to a point where Georgia is overwhelming Alabama, especially in the first half. Uh, they go into the locker room, they make adjustments, and it's either a close win by Alabama or it ends up being a blowout by Alabama. Usually speaking, the this past time that these two teams have played did not go in Alabama's favor. Um, in this specific case, it was a Georgia Alabama national championship, and this was already frowned upon because it's two SEC teams. Although we finally have the playoff that people have been clamoring for, at what cost, basically? If we gonna still just keep putting SEC teams in it, um, and Alabama, for all intents and purposes, were getting beat. They were not playing well in that first half. They ended up being down 13 at halftime, and Jalen Hurts was the starting quarterback at that point. And after halftime, um, we get to see Tua, and Tua starts making some pretty key plays, and uh, he ended up completing 14 of 24 for 166 yards, but he threw three touchdowns. That's the most important stat, and especially and the game ended up going to overtime, in which Alabama won on a beautiful throw by Tua Tagovailoa to Devontae Smith, an eventual Heisman Trophy winner. Um, I mean, it was one of the most amazing games that I've ever watched live. Um, but just that comeback for this goes back to being able to be counted on, and we had no proof of concept with Tua Tagovailoa. Nick Saban knew something that the world didn't know, and um, for him to put that confidence in a true freshman and him to throw an interception and still be left in the game, I mean that just shows an amount of trust and belief and confidence on both sides and just will, to be able to get through things like that. And I just think that moment, um I, I believe that if I were to ask Nick Saban which one is his favorite, I think that this one, which national championship was his favorite, I think that this one would at least be top two. I think it would be his favorite. It is my personal favorite because just that moment, like it's still unbelievable that, here we are down 13 in the national championship in Georgia. And you know what I mean? All odds were stacked against us. And for us to come out and play the way that we did, I just is one of my favorite moments, and not only Alabama football but in sports history. I think that's that put Tua on the map, that put Alabama back on the map, that put Devontae Smith on the map. Um, it was such a huge moment for so many people. Um, and I remember prior to the championship, people always talk about how Nick Saban doesn't smile unless he wins a championship, basically. And I remember the interviewer asking, "You haven't smiled all year, but how do you feel now?" He said, "You got it, baby." And there's just so many, like, that gave him a reason to smile. And I just think that to wrap up, sports in general aren't we're not just watching men and women. I mean, if the moments in these sports didn't matter to us, or if we didn't look at the bigger picture around sports, then it would just be a bunch of men and women in matching uniforms and a bunch of numbers. That's all it would be. Um, so I just think that sports sport is I don't okay, there are certain words that I don't think we will ever technically be able to describe, to define rather life. How do you define life? What is the definition of life? I don't I think that we spend our whole life, trying to figure that out. And sport is a very subjective term, in my opinion. What we identify as sport, what we don't. Um, you hear people in hip hop say that hip hop is a competitive sport, and in a lot of respects, that's true. That's very true. So I think that what sport means to you, um, whatever sports mean to you, you have to look, you know, in between the lines and identify how can I apply this to my everyday life. And I'm aware that these athletes are getting paid millions and millions and millions of dollars, but at the end of the day, most of what we consume is just entertainment anyway. Food and entertainment, I would say. Food, water, and entertainment. I don't I think that that's like that you could pretty much, match what you do in your everyday life to one of those three things. So except for work, but I mean maybe your work provides entertainment for others. So I don't know, but I just think that at the end of the day, and we love sports because we can identify with certain moments within them that apply a bigger meaning, a bigger message to our everyday lives. And I'm just so grateful to be alive at this point in time. I think that we are living in the best uh, times of athleticism. I believe that we are witnessing the greatest athletes to ever perform at their respective sport, and I believe that we are under the guise of the greatest forms of entertainment that we have ever been under. And I'm grateful. I pray that you are grateful. I pray that you are able to uh, find your whatever makes you tick. I hope that you are able to find those in sports or in other forms of entertainment. Um, and I just pray that we are all able to be better at whatever we're doing in our lives, and whatever we're doing in our lives, we should all strive to be the greatest at doing it. And that's what I strive to do. That's what I hope you strive to do. And I'm praying for you. Peace.